Welcome to Magicians Talking Magic. My name is Ryan Joyce.
And my name is Graeme. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Magicians Talking Magic and Joyce. It's episode 141.
That is a lot of episodes.
We're on the road. We're on the track to 150. We're getting so close.
And sneak preview, we just before recording kind of plotted ahead and some interesting episodes to come. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. We are glad you are. As always, join us in Discord. That's where all the cool stuff is happening. But we always do news and updates. And you, sir, hit the stage.
Boom. I did my first 2 shows back in real life people shows. And it was so cool to do that again. The first one I did at this small staircase theater, the Black Box Theater, with Smooth Comedy, and talk about magic rust. Wow. Felt so weird. It was so strange being there. I kind of described it, or we were describing it, all the performers, as like when you get a rental car, you're like, I know how to drive cars, but I've never been in this one before. This one feels funny.
Great.
Where's the wiper thing? Oh my gosh, the brakes are a little punchy today. What's going on?
That's great. So for that venue, fill us in on like the venue and the situation, the audience size and stuff. Give us some of the details.
So the theater holds a maximum of like 60 some odd people. So we only could do half capacity. So there were, 30 some odd people. I don't think there was any sort of vaccine passport, anything like that. However, this venue used to just have kind of baked goods now. It closed during the pandemic, but reopened with new owners. And now they have vegan fare. And it's like the best menu there. The service is incredible. The environment is so cool. They have like VHS tapes taped all over the walls. So if you're a VHS junkie, I'm talking to you, Colin. The Staircase Theater is somewhere that you have to totally check out, because they also play old movies, and you can rent out the Staircase, I think, right now for a group of people to do a screening of a movie if you wanted to as well. Anyhow, I did 10 minutes. I was so concerned about COVID. I didn't want to touch anybody or have anyone come up. So I pulled out a Joe Diamond trick. Joe Diamond recently revealed his magician ritual magic trick. It was in his Penguin Live and a bunch of other, but then he dropped it on Scam Nation with Brian Brushwood. So it's great. I set up an envelope with cards in it. He uses 10. I use 7 because level 7 wizard. So everyone got a little envelope with my branding on it, and then they all got to open it. We all got to throw playing cards and shout together, which was fun. But because it was a new trick, I had like no idea.
Right, of course.
I finished the trick, and I was like, ta-da. Like I was like, oh shoot, I don't have an end to that. I don't have a follow-up to connect it back to everything. So that was weird. But then day 2, I got to do close-up walk-around magic at a microbrewery out in Scotland, Ontario, Flux Brewery, and it was incredible to ride that bike again. First table totally blew it. Whatever, it's fine. And actually, I had this new set of tricks in mind again, thinking recreating the same magic tricks, but then it just didn't work out. So I was like, screw this. I'm going to go back to my old material, and I just started doing my old material. And what I did is I took an idea from Matt Zatt, who was on the podcast just recently, of taking a bottle of sanitizer with you. So if anyone felt concerned, take a little pump. But I also put elastic bands around it, and I had my business cards on either side, because I have 2 business cards. I have one for my magic, and then one if you want to learn 4 free tricks, right? And then Sharpie markers in there, or magic wands. So I could hand those to people. And because everything was coming from the sanitizer bottle, I figured it influenced the sanitizer bottle. You would be surprised. No one sanitized their hands at all. Everyone was
It's a great solution, though, because it's like having your own little, a business card holder and like safety tool and whatever you want to do in there. That's really great.
And everyone thought it was kind of hilarious because I would come over with a beer because it was a brewery, Right. So I'd have a beer in hand, a deck of cards in hand, and my sanitizer bottle, masked, and then ask, can I sit at the table? Because then I can take this off. So then I'd usually sit at the table and we'd have like a full-on conversation. I would do a maximum of 2, maybe 3 tricks. Maybe 3, but mostly 2. And it was amazing. People were so happy. And I was in the zone because now I've like upped my character Gramazing level 7 wizard. And now I've really applied it to my close-up magic. And it was hilarious the whole time.
Yep. Like I don't expect a honest, full critique answering this, but let me ask, sitting down at the table, is that something you would have done before COVID? And like, do you think it would have been as receptive? Do you think reception to that has changed at all? Do you think any, I like that. That sounds really neat and like conversational and casual.
I wouldn't have done. I wanted to do it before, but I always felt it because this is already a huge invasion of space, right? Doing this, so that's why I was like, wow. I feel like because of the brewery, it's a little bit of a different environment where it's picnic tables and things outside. Like it's more of a casual seating. It's not booths and things, so the opportunity to sit down seems more available. Like I felt like I still wasn't too close to anybody. A chair might be a little bit further away from some people. I prefer to stand when I do close-up magic because it gives me more control. I like to walk around the table and the situation so to use it for misdirection, so I can take as much advantage of that. However, sitting at a table, so easy to dip your hands down below the table, get a quick break or whatever you need to do, flip a card over.
Absolutely. That's I've always wanted to create a sit down like Magic Castle routine. So that's that's awesome. And actually, recently I spoke to Greg Fruin, who I see on the CAM board meetings regularly, and he's also open. And I chatted with him about like how he's off, not for the podcast, but you brought up the point that we should chat with Greg to see how he's handling the stage scenario and COVID and things. So we're going to Greg hopefully on the podcast in the weeks to come. Wow, man, that's a really great update about shows. It's encouraging to hear things are moving and shaking. I haven't dipped into that well yet myself, returned to that well.
And I think I'm starting to learn too the huge difference between virtual magic and all these in-person shows too.
Oh yes,
it's a completely different muscle. When you're doing virtual magic, you're basically telling a story. You're reading a book. You're presenting one-on-one the whole time. And I know this sounds so crazy because you're like, yeah, that's what a magic show is. Magic show is so interactive when it's in person. There's so much more one-on-one with that person. And also just them experiencing magic is completely way different. And also the idea of that misdirection now exists and you can play with the environment. It's just it's so easier. And some of us are talking too that I even think for the audience that watches a virtual magic show, we're all presenting. When we're on a webcam, we're all presenting ourselves, So everyone gets to relax a whole lot more. It's great.
That is, it's going to be interesting to hear others' feedback. If you've been doing shows, join us in Discord and let us know what your comments and reactions have been. Also, quick plug on that same vein, I'll just say if you are in the Ontario area, you should definitely go check out Greg's show and support in Niagara Falls. So I've been working on a project for the last, I think it came just at the turn of the year, so many months. I can
the turn of the century.
And it's a super fun project with a fellow Canadian magician. I'm in a more of a production role on this, not magical at all. On my perspective, more consultant creative, I guess. And that is, the other magician is Nick Wallace. He's the feature magician for this amazing project, music and magic project, with an orchestra in Toronto called Tafel Music, Tafel Baroque Orchestra Music. So, and they're just releasing as we speak. And by the time this episode airs, that season will be announced. So you can find them online. We'll leave a link in the description so you can check that out. It's going to be a virtual event, a concert magic production. I'm not going to talk too many details about it for now because I'm hoping to share an episode with Nick in the future to talk about it in great detail, because it certainly is a very unique project that I think a lot of magicians will enjoy, and that is available, like it'll be in a deliverable that you can watch anywhere in the world. So exciting. Very, very, very interesting project, because musically I have no understanding, I'm literally a newbie when it comes to that. So I've definitely lots of learning for me on my behalf, but I think it turned out great. So.
From what I've heard from behind the scenes, it sounds like it's incredibly epic, and it should be eye candy to check it out. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and everybody listening, of course, knows Nick. If you haven't, the name's sort of unfamiliar, just type in Nick Wallace in YouTube, and immediately you'll pop up with his either AGT or Fool Us or many TV performances. He's just such an original character. Oh, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
I don't want
So,
to spill the beans either, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be appearing at the Staircase Theater too really soon.
oh, is
And
that so? I
there
mean,
could there could also be maybe another performer by the name of Graeme also in this show too at the end of September at the Staircase Theater. So
that is spectacular. I
yeah.
am happy to hear more details if they come into the open. Well, you have also big news to
Yeah,
share.
this happened literally overnight. I have now become the temporary acting president of IBM Ring 235, the KW Secret Society. Triple snaps,
Triple snaps.
triple snaps. What a sudden turn of events. I didn't even expect anything like this. But what happened is our club, if you listen to the podcast, we had two very special tribute episodes throughout the year for Paul Reuter and Romaine, who were members of the KW Magic Society. They were also president and vice president of the club. So the club is kind of in a weird position, and a bunch of members have moved, and communication's been tough for people throughout the year and everything like this. So there was a mass email sent out from John Buendijk, member of the club, saying, these positions are open. This is what we have planned for the club. We'll probably do some joint things with the Hamilton Club and all these sorts of things. And if you're listening to the podcast, one thing that I recognize is that KW, there's something magic in that water that club has created. There's a uniqueness to that club outside of other clubs that I've been part of. So I sat on it a couple of days. I was like, I don't need to do this to myself, Grimazing. Why do you need to take on another weird project like this? And I thought about it more and more, and I thought about all the club members, specifically. And I was like, I could do this. This is fine. So I just said, hey, John, I'll do the temporary thing. So he gave me a call. I was like, here's the keys to the castle. And here we are.
That's amazing. There needs to be like music there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is certainly, it's a troubling thing because we've lost so many members in that club. I stumbled, actually, you sent the link to the website before, and I stumbled and I saw pictures of those two individuals we were talking about, Paul and Romaine, and my heart sort of stopped for a minute. And you're right that, and then we'll move on to another, but our Magic Club has basically been the foundation of a lot of people's careers, myself included. Joan Caesar, who started CAM, and Paul, of course, Paul Reuter. Lots of legends passed through that way, and it certainly is great that you've taken over because,
Well, it's a historical place too. Like even people like Peter Marucci too, right? Who has such a big foundation in your career too. And then I'm excited to take over the reins because Scott Boyd was the acting president for so many years, and he was a newcomer to Magic, and he's really elevated his career as well. And he brought in so much positive vibes to the club. So I hope to carry on that tradition. And as we know too, your involvement with CAM, and then there's some conversations going on behind the scenes with some other presidents of the IBM clubs that have already had overnight. So it's the networking and the excitement around. There's a common theme of let's make these all inclusive. Let's bring Magic back. Let's make it exciting. Let's advertise these clubs. Let's do some cool stuff. So I'm really pumped.
I am also pumped. I'm also really super thrilled that you are the president. This is going to be really super. Also, if you're listening, if you have any thoughts about Magic clubs and the future of Magic clubs and what you think would make a really great Magic club, let us know. This is touching a nerve on several points, not just even the topic you just raised, but something we've been talking about at CAM. A new committee has been formed for that so recently, and so it's something I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear what people want in a great Magic club.
Yeah,
I've definitely some ideas as well. So, on that same vein, with the CAM plug, I will just announce that the Camaraderie, which is connected, of course, with FISM North America, the North American Qualifying Champions, is in, oh my God, it'll be at the end of this month. Wow, that's crazy to think. And so September 28th to October 3rd is where you can, and that's up in Quebec City, and there'll be full competition, full shows, full lectures. It's going to be essentially, in one terms, I imagine, a dry run for next year, which of course is the World Championships, aka our Olympics in Magic, is in the same city, in location, Quebec City, which is stunning. So see more about it by visiting FISMNA2021.com.
You're going to be there too. You're going to be there. So you're gonna be able to give us some exclusives and keep us up to date.
I will
and
be
things like
walking
this,
around
too.
with a microphone and getting inside scoops from everybody, and I'll be sharing that here on the podcast. So make sure to subscribe, whatever app you get, and give us a 5-star review. That would
And I'm
be
also looking forward to that picture of you and Kid Oldman as well.
yay! Can't wait to meet in person. That's going to be super.
Recently on the podcast, we just had 2 Crusher episodes. We had Caleb Wiles on the podcast, and
Awesome.
triple snaps, triple snaps. That was one of my favorite interviews that I've done.
He's
Such
a cool cat.
Yeah, such a high level conversation, just kicking that magic volleyball back and forth. We've actually continued chatting that we want to do another one and just hang out and talk magic because it was, and we even after the podcast we talked about like, oh, I'm working on this routine. This is how I frame it and script it, and we were kind of like tweaking each other. It was really awesome. It was super cool. And then also last week we had Matt Zatt, member of the Discord, our second guest host episode, talking about authentic marketing and another Crusher episode. I mean, if we all know, and most of us know, Matt is kind of behind the scenes in the customer relations and the marketing of Vanishing Ink. Plus, he's also really great at doing it on his own too. So we're getting that behind the scenes kind of scoop from Matt Zatt. And that was another fun one to kind of kick around too. So we've had 2 amazing episodes, and then coming up next week, we have an interview, returning guest Josh Chinowski, who gives us the entire full look at his new Hermes wallet. Because, like me and many other magicians, I'm a wallet junkie.
You gave me the lowdown, and wow, awesome. I don't carry a wallet myself, but maybe I will start thinking about it. That's awesome. It's a great episode. Make sure to check that out. And don't forget to join us in the Discords. That's where we keep talking about, but that is where you want to keep this conversation going. And
that's also where things like the book club happen, which we still have yet to record. We've been, if anything's been delayed the most, it's been this book club. But what we learned, I think, is that trying to do something like that, a group thing at the end of summer, is very challenging. So just being respectful of everyone's time, that totally makes sense. So probably sometime in September here, we're going to be recording Plots, Ploys, and Other Cons book club with Brent Braun. Well, not with, maybe, I don't know. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. That would be, it would be probably a little weird to critique with the author right there, but that would be really awesome. Also, don't forget to check us out on YouTube, and we've got some merch. So you can check those links by clicking the links in the description. I have a couple things. I love the buttons. Those are really cool. I got the smaller ones. Next time I'm gonna get that's the one. Yep.
Yeah.
And then I also got a t-shirt. So
I have a couple shirts
stuff coming soon too. So check that out.
I realized that when we go to record, whenever I'm recording one of these podcast episodes, the shirt that I've worn all the other shirts, and then the only one that's clean is my red one, and it looks like I only have one of our shirts. I've got 3 of them, but I just keep wearing them, and then it's like gross, and I don't get to wear it. So, I like the shirts. The buttons are so cool, and the stickers actually are awesome too. The stickers are really great quality. So there's
that's a great tip. Actually, I'm going to get some of those and decorate some of my favorite stuff.
And if you haven't checked out the store, there's all sorts of different designs, including a cut and complete.
So great. Well done. And this topic of the week is something that we've been sort of chatting about a little bit for the last, I don't know, here and there. And it's just sort of, I don't know, sparks our interests, I guess. And that is discussing 3 pieces of magic each, which I will confess before we jump in, it was hard to limit to just 3, but pieces of magic that we've always wanted to perform or add to our shows that we've never, ever done. And so why is that? Is there a reason, or is this just a good list of magic that we think should be added to our shows? What jumps out for you?
So number 1, and this is, I've been toying with this, I haven't put it in yet, but it's Bob Cassidy's name and place routine. It's a great mind reading routine. The essential concept is you get one person to think of a name, one person to think of a place. They mix up the pieces of information. They hand you one of them. You destroy it. It's now eliminated from the game, so we'll just focus on this one. You reveal this, and then you reveal the other one too after it's been destroyed. It's a really great routine. I have not done it because I haven't had the opportunity to try it out yet, is the main thing. And for me, it's like, if you look at the mechanics and the movement, it's pretty simple. But as discussed in the Caleb Wiles episode, mentalism routines are the most challenging because it's the framework and the storytelling around it that has to be there captivating so that the rest of it is like, oh, that just happened, you know? So Bob Cassidy's Name and Place, and there's so many versions of it. I've researched this thing up the wazoo over the entire pandemic too. I've checked out every possible version I think that exists, from like Mark Paul to Luc Germain to, you know, different envelopes you can use or use a peak device or sorts of any other thing like this. And I keep going back to the original Bob Cassidy routine. It's perfect. It's perfect. And it's on the Penguin. I'm always watching it on his Penguin Live or his Penguin Lecture. And which is, if you've never checked out Bob Cassidy's Penguin Lecture, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. But he's also one of the greats. He's one of the greats, and he left us a couple of years ago too. Bob Cassidy, I believe. Yeah, the legendary.
Yeah, that's great. And you touched on a point about like doing something for the first time in that like fog phase. And it's like, did I just do it right? Is like the basics, right? And then it's hard to even like understand story and structure and all that when you're starting early on. That's why mentalism tends to maybe fail more for newer folks, depending on the routine, of course. But
It
it
takes
does
so
do a
much
lot.
commitment in what you're doing, right? And to understand that commitment, you do have to ride the roller coaster of the routine a couple times first to be like, uh huh.
Yeah, and you look at some of I mean, Bob Cassidy. I mean, just look at him. He looked like a mentalist, right? So like he's already got like an aura and a presence and a character that's built around him. So it's I'm not saying it's easier. I'm just saying like he's done the work or did the work to like craft that.
Well,
And
this is my struggle too. Is like and I'm always playing with these things. How much does a routine like that fit with someone like me, level 7 wizard? Why would I be doing this?
yeah, that resonation button. Like, what is it that pieces of magic? So, is there a reason why this one hasn't come in? Any particular reason, or just eventually it will?
I think I really wanted to, like in these. I just like I was hoping to actually try it at the staircase, but I was too chicken to do something too personal, right? Um, but I still also don't have the full. I got to do a generic version of the routine first, and then go. Okay, now I'll wizardify this and give it the backstory that it needs.
That's great. I went a different approach with mine. I did broke our three into close up, illusion and stage because those are the three areas that I've kind of worked. I guess is most. So I didn't put any mentalism on this route, but I would for me close up. There's always two that have stood out that I've always wanted to do, and the first one's kind of like a shock, like what you have never done that, and that's an ambitious card routine. I've never added it to my set ever. I but it's perfect. It's wonderful. I wish I had the work into that because I mean, what a great piece of magic you can do anywhere. Then you know the list. Great piece of magic. The reason I didn't is everybody I knew was doing,
Oh yeah, I
and
know.
so it was like, well, I could put all that effort into it, something that I mean, it was some probably would have never impacted me ever. Period. I'm seeing that now, but not the right decision. I should have done the work, but I was afraid that ever since everyone was doing it, I would just be a repeat. So, and
I
on
was
that,
d- I was actually doing it at the brewery, the ambitious card routine. It's all muscle memory in me. It's like one of the longest tricks I've done. But there's one part that like was like, oh, don't do it. Was I put the card in my mouth, right? Obviously I didn't do it. But there's a natural my hands just do
it's the
at
next
this moment in
phase.
time, like I had to reconfigure my muscles at that moment in time. So what I started doing was I'd handed the Sharpie marker to the person and it became their magic wand. So they would tap the top and they would turn over the card and it'd be at the top, and it became really interactive the whole time. But they would start with the wand and then they'd be like, oh, you'll need that still. You'll still need that. And it became really fun in that sense. I've
Uh,
re-scripted the ambitious card routine about 10 times. I used to do it with blank cards where I'd draw pizza on it and I'd force that card to a kid. And I'd be like, what card did you get? And they'd be like, pizza. And I'd be like, pizza? No. And then you have
that's
that
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you're just proving more and more why I should have added it to the show, and maybe I will. I will put a little runner up in that, and that was I've always loved in the four coin assemblies.
Oh, the Matrix?
The Matrix, yeah, I've
Yeah.
always loved those. The reason why I never like it technically, it's hard to project that to the audience. So there's a lot of technical things around it that just never entered into my world. But I've always loved it, and I've had several like my own ideas. I'm sure you do the same. Like you brainstorm how you would make it your own and stuff. So I've got some ideas for it. I just never dove in. So those are my close-up pieces of magic for our first round of this. That was good.
Just to close off that Matrix thing, if people are interested in Matrixes, one of the most unique versions that's really fun is Charlie Fry has one that he uses dice.
Ooh.
So there's some like elevation of the cards, which adds a little extra magic to the whole thing.
There is a 100% genius wizard right there, Charlie Fry. Anything he does is incredible.
Oh yeah, yeah. Number 2. For me, I've always wanted to do I want to do Jeff McBride's mask and card manipulation routine to cool music is what I want to do. I want to come out dancing with oomph and chutzpah and energy and do that. But the reason why I put it on here, I can do some card manipulation too. I can't commit to that. I have a hard time committing to that, but I want to, you know what I mean? Just like how a lot of us are like, I want to be in a rock and roll band, but I can't commit to that kind of thing. So that's one of those things where like, I like that, but it doesn't need to fit with me. And that's totally okay. That's totally fine. But when I first started learning magic, I actually started learning card manipulation. That was the first, because Jeff McBride was the first act I saw that blew my mind, and the masks and the whole thing. So that's why it's like
awesome. I also love card manip. I did always had like at least a 2 or 3 minute routine in the show, so I can understand like that aspect of like it's a lot of work for those 2 minutes.
But it's a lot. It's so stunning though.
Yes.
When executed well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah. And I'm out on a limb here, but in the era of COVID, there's certainly, bringing less people on stage is certainly more reasons to come up with a handful of minutes on stage. That's to music. So card manipulation routine might be one of those. I'll just, my second round, I decided to do illusions, just because that's a world I used to dance in as well. And hell, literally. I just love this one. And I was chatting, Greg, we were chatting about illusions. Windshear, I love this illusion. So here's for many of you aren't as nerdy as I am. I will tell you what Windshear is. It's a creation by Jim Steinmeier, and I believe the Spencers were the first ones to do it, whether it might be his creation, partial involvement, I'm not sure the level, but it's a fan that's directed at the audience in a small table, and you can see the fan blade spinning. Hans Klock did it on World's Greatest Magic 3, and then the hand goes through. You always see half of this spinning blade. Oh boy, I always wanted to perform that with every ounce of my soul, and it wasn't a financial decision for the purchase of it because it was reasonably priced. It was a big prop.
Okay.
Physically it doesn't look that massive, but it doesn't break down super amazingly is what I was told. So anyways, I already had a 2-ton truck filled, so that was the determiner there. Did you see that performance with
Hans Klock? It's like the best. Like whenever I think of Hans Klock, that's the one I think of, because he's basically like a romance novel, right?
Sure, yeah, totally.
And in that one, he's suffering so much going through that fan, and there's so much wind because it's a fan. It's perfect. Hans Klock and
sold Sita. It. Oh my god, it was so great. And like his shtick, anyways, is the fan. It's a no-brainer. That is a great piece of magic. Always wanted to do, and that would be awesome to have Hans on the podcast sometime. Just sending that out to the universe. I'll put it as my runner-up, Bow Staff Illusion, which I have here with me. I've just never performed it. Shipped it all the way around the world.
Really?
To a cruise ship. It was just too big and impractical to be able to functionally execute and perform, but I've always loved it. And then I'll button my last little illusion here, which is a lot of people will say, well, that's really a stage routine, but it's illusion, and that's the floating ball. I've always wanted to do some sort of large scale floating ball scenario on stage, but that's a big setup.
Who was it that the woman that floated on the ball?
Oh yeah,
Melinda? No,
Elle.
I remember. Wasn't she Russian or something like this too?
Oh boy,
I feel terrible that I can't think of the name.
Yeah, I can't think. It'll come to us at the end of the. If you know the name, if we don't get it, but in this episode, if you know the name.
I remember. I can see the whole thing. I can see her long hair in that whitish gold dress or something on the ball, and she's doing this weird ghost-like movement as she's floating.
Yep. It was a neat setup for it as well. Like she had this mysterious vibe
Hmm.
all the way around. What was her name? Anyways,
She would, you know what? She would be like an amazing act on AGT right now. She would,
totally. What was her name?
right? I feel terrible about this. There's a couple of people listening at home, like a Daniel Greenwolf or something. Like, come on, it's this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, let us know in Discord if we didn't get it by the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so those are my round 2 stage illusions. Let's go to round 3.
Oh, number 3. So mine is anything with invisible thread. I've always wanted to use invisible thread, and it's gone terrible every single time. I can never pull it off. Like I'm too greasy. I don't know what it is with me. I break it. I just have no confidence with it. I've lost all my confidence with it. I've done a ton of research and messed around with it to try to work with it. I'm terrible with it. I would love to do that's especially for level 7 wizard. One thing that needs to be in the show is something that floats. You know, so that's what I've been researching a lot. But part of me is like, I want to make something float without thread because I just don't like it so much.
Yeah, the first thing I bought as a kid was like the invisible thread reel because I love invisible thread stuff. So
I had the Wonder Bar. Do you remember the Wonder Bar?
oh yeah.
The little silver tube that would be in the test tube,
Yep.
and it would float up and down and stuff like that.
Yep.
That worked out okay for me. I just remember some people would see it sometimes because I wasn't good with the lighting conditions.
Yeah, floating stuff is just magic, pure magic. So it's a no-brainer for Wizard to add to the show. I've definitely done a thread piece in my show for 1.5 trillion years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and thread work is certainly its own little finicky thing. It's not something that is necessarily universal, I guess. Like there are
So
some,
I kind of think I've been thinking about this a lot too. That as magicians, we don't need to excel in every single aspect of it, right? I mean, that's great if you can, but when it's Josh's episode, which comes out soon, we were both talking about how Josh and I are, and both of us on paper are motion graphic artists. However, what he does and what I do is totally different. You know what I mean? I specialize in MoGraph, text, and commercials and things like that, where he might animate, Dr. Doolittle or lions in a 3D space, right? You know what I mean? So in that realm, I know it's not working for me. I'm too clumsy to work with thread. I'm just gonna walk through it.
it's a thing. Yeah, for sure.
What's your number 3?
I'll go in the stage category. This is just I say I've always wanted to do a book test. I've always wanted to do a book test. I've just there's a couple questions about it, depending on routines and things that have been the emphasis of why. For one thing, is you also have to, in many cases, travel with books,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of puts that out of the loop for a while. On the ships, your options are limited, and travel is a thing. So that's why I never read it. Also, in that same vein, a drawing duplication, just awesome. I've always wanted to take advantage of that aspect of mentalism that's so visual and so portable, and just never put it in because I've just never found that hook for me yet. So, and I will say my runner-up, just because I've not stuck to the vein here, one per is Miser's Dream. I've always wanted to do Miser's Dream, and like 50 other ideas that I've had in my book of add to the show that never made it in there. I'm sure many can relate. Miser's Dream, it's just a great piece of magic because it's like it plays on this audio sense of magic, which not a lot of pieces of magic have that.
Well, there's so many ways to present it too, right? Some magicians show the coins and show that they fall into the bucket. Some don't even produce, like Jeff McBride doesn't even really produce the coins. It's all imagination, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, it's a really diverse routine. That's one thing that I've also never tried. You know what? My runner-up is Pavel's Walking Knot. I remember seeing that. You actually brought him up earlier today when you're at Andrew Pogson. I remember seeing him do it at Fern Resort to Nelly Furtado. Moving the knot across and untying that rope, and then ties it back up, and then moves the knot down again and unties it. Like, what?
Yep. It goes with me every show, even though it's not in the show. I know I can get 4 minutes or 3 minutes and 45 seconds out of it.
It's an amazing routine. I
Such
have there's
great
like two versions, like a stage and a close up or something. I have the smaller version, I think, but I've only ever performed it twice, like in childhood Christmas corporate parties, or when you're doing those things or something, trying stuff out.
It's pure magic. The reaction first time you untie that knot and the audience realizes that you're about to untie it, rather than just take the knot off and heel it together, and then you show them. There's just like this audible reaction that's just profound, because
it can't make sense. Like, even because there's a new version now where you you plug in the power chords, right? Chris Funk has popularized this, and I think he's got his is all over social media, I know, where he's playing the guitar and he'll slide the thing down and it changes the tone of it, but then you can unplug it wherever you want along the chord too, right? Cool. There's something though about the rope, it has these ends, and the end, it's different. I don't know. It's amazing.
Yeah, really great piece of magic for sure. The first time I did it when I was in high school, we used a microphone. We used the cord from the microphone, and I had a funkin' ring and sparks and everything. It was off. It was terrible. But anyways, regrets that we make. That was a pretty great list of magic. We'd love to know what your list is. What would be the pieces of magic that you would add to your show?
Yeah, jump on our Discord and leave us a comment there of maybe one piece of magic that you really want to include in your show that you haven't, and that you might not, and that's totally okay. You can also leave that comment on our YouTube channel. And if you've been watching this episode this week, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you've checked out our other episodes too, triple snaps.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Episode 141 of Magicians Talking Magic. So glad you're here listening to us. My name is Ryan Joyce.
My name is Graeme.
Shablazum.
To Doozle.